There are so many interesting, horrifying, or downright weird things in this big world of ours.
Each week, we'll bring you a new true crime story that has little to no coverage in English.
Let us do the translations so you don't have to.
I am Petra.
I'm Victoria.
Sorry.
What? What?
You think our names are funny, huh?
And I'm Laura, and this is the podcast Translation Murder. So, yeah, we're going to get started this week with a bit of a sad case, and that's all I can say right now without ruining too much. But the episode title will be The Familicide in Karkkila. So, in May of 2003, the night before Mother's Day in Karkkila, about 5 kilometers from the Karkkila center, this is where our tale takes place. So at the time of 2003, Karkkila had about 9,000 inhabitants, and it's located in Uusimaa. And refer back to the episode that we discussed Uusimaa in very vivid detail about where things are located. But it's also located about 71 kilometers or 55 minutes by car from Helsinki. So I've been here, like, it's pretty rural. There's lots of potential for farms around and whatnot. And yeah, so yeah. Have you guys been to Karkkila?
I haven't. I'm just Googling where it exactly is, even though
Hmm.
you just described.
Yeah.
I believe
What
I
about-
have, but I don't have any clear memory. What kind of probably I was at someone's summer cottage or something like that, where it's not really
Yeah.
meaningful how the town itself is.
I just like the name of the town, Karkkila. It's like place of candy.
Yeah, Candy Town.
Candy town, basically. So, which I don't know, it's kind of poetic in that regard that this town has such a sweet name, but definitely doesn't have sweet things happen to it. So we'll get started with the names of these people. I read this book on this case, and I think the author had basically changed the names. So I'm not sure if the names I'm using are correct names or they're changed names or even the articles, for instance, in like some of my sources, Iltalehti, they also use different names. So I'm kind of a bit curious whether which names I'm using. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of the victims, for instance, but I didn't know which names to use. So you'll hear the ones that I read in the Iltalehti articles instead of the book Kun kukaan ei kuule is the name of the book that I used mostly for the first part of this series. And this will be a two-part episode because there's quite a lot of information. So, yeah. So, Harry was 13 years old at the time, and he had an ordinary day at camp school, or leirikoulu, and he arrived home to help with the care of the animals. So his mother raised dogs, and they had some horses. So he, got home from school and he helped feed the animals and take care of them and whatnot. And after this, he put his 2-year-old sister Yasmin to bed in his mother's and stepfather's room. The stepfather and Harry's mom had once again been in a fight, and Juha, the stepfather, had left to go to stay at his parents' place in Helsinki. When Harry and Yasmin put Yasmin to sleep, his 5-year-old brother Jukka also climbed into his own bed to go to sleep. At the same time, Harry's mom stated that she was about to go put the sauna on and asked if Harry wants to have a turn. And by the way, like, sauna is a huge thing in Finland. This is kind of like a cultural relevant thing that, yeah, sauna is a massively big thing in Finland, and it usually can have like a electric kiuas, which is like the furnace place thing that you throw water onto and heat the sauna up with, or it can be wood burning. So that's important for later. Harri was tired and just wanted to go to sleep, so he declined going to sauna. And he fell asleep around 10 p.m. in his bedroom upstairs on Saturday night. And mind you, this is the Saturday night before Mother's Day, which would be on the Sunday in May. And Harri woke to at 1 o'clock in the morning to an otherwise dark and quiet house, except there was a beeping noise, the sound of a fire alarm, which I would imagine is quite shocking. I mean, just even a recent thing that wasn't major happened in our house that I woke up at, I think it was also 12 or 1 o'clock. There was a beeping noise because the fire alarm was next to the window. And I think the condensation from the window itself made the fire alarm go off. But that was like the quickest I've gotten out of bed, despite, okay, animals like puking in the middle of the night is another one. And fire alarm is like another instance where I'm just like, oh shit, like, something's wrong. And it just wakes you up immediately. So have you guys had any any scares in the middle of the night like this, or any instances where you were suddenly awoken?
It just reminded me of our recent trip to Szeged when we were staying at this Airbnb, and someone
Yes.
someone didn't ring the doorbell, but kind of called through the intercom from the main door, probably accidentally. And I woke up and I started freaking out, like, who is it? Who wants to get it? It was also our first night in that place, but then nothing happened, luckily. And you didn't hear it, Nora.
No, I didn't, because I had earplugs and a face mask and I was completely dead to the world. So luckily I didn't wake up, but or maybe not luckily. What if there had been like a murderer outside the door? That would have been kind of shitty.
Yeah. Immediately, that's what I started thinking about. But then, yeah, I was still too lazy to get out of bed. So I was hoping that, hopefully it's not actually a murderer. And it wasn't. We're here.
Yeah. We're here to tell the tale. Almost a week and a half later or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yes. In his room there was a little smoke, but as he opened the door to the hallway, a suffocating cloud of smoke billowed towards him. But in his panic, he shut the door immediately, and it was already so thick he couldn't see through the smoke in the hallway. So he just not freaked out, but just, I would be personally freaked out too. Like this, another story that also just popped into my head was when I was living up in Oulu for my bachelor's degree, and I had a roommate who decided to have a drunken pizza after coming home from the bars, and we were living in this like 4-room shared kind of dorm room basically, and then we had like a what is it, like a shared basically kitchen area, and that was in the middle, and then the doors were surrounding them. And so I wake up because I smell smoke coming from underneath my door, which was also quite a lot of smoke because usually smoke rises. So when it fills up a whole room and it goes underneath the door, that's a big a big problem. And yeah, so I open the door and once again like smoke billows towards you, and I was just like, what the fuck is happening? Is the whole apartment on fire? No, it was literally just the pizza in the oven. And I quickly, pounding on the doors of my roommates and stuff, but it's kind of this, primal fear of what's going on, how to get out, save the people, it's just,
Yeah.
you don't know how serious it's going to be. So it's kind of, I don't know, just putting yourself in these situations of having a fire in your house, or you don't even know how serious it is just
Where was
sad.
your roommate?
My
Sleeping?
roommate was passed out sleeping. Yeah, I had to pounding on her door and just like I was super pissed to say the least, and yeah, I banned her from making pizzas like late at night. So yeah, so we'll continue. So yes, he couldn't see through the smoke because it was already so thick. Harri hurried to wake his mother and his siblings from bed, who were also sleeping all in the same room. And Harri, his mother, Sini is her name, had already called the emergency services at 12:56 in the morning. but Sini was already like kind of unintelligible on the phone and was unable to explain the situation, and all she could do was like kind of scream and cry and be hysterical on the phone, which is maybe not the most helpful when you're making an emergency call, especially when you need help immediately, right? So together, Harry and Sini figured that they could use the fire escape ladder outside of Sini's window and safely get to the ground from the second floor. So also another thing, in Finland, it's quite common to have these kind of escape ladders outside of windows on the second floor. Usually, I don't actually know like the law with this, but for instance, I have a escape route outside our window, for instance, at home, and we have a fireplace in the bedroom, so it makes sense that way. Like it's easy to escape out and go down the ladder and whatnot. But yeah, it's just kind of commonplace to have these ladders outside of homes and whatnot. So Harry decided he would go back to his room to get his cell phone, and when he retrieved the phone, he had to crawl on the ground to return to Sini's room. So I think there wasn't really much information on this, I think, in the book, or at least not what I noticed, that I think the phone of Sini's or something, I don't know why he needed the second phone. Maybe to also call the emergency services, or just get like, maybe if their phone was, I don't know, broken, or I don't know, dead or something like that. So on his return to the room, the hallway had become so hot that Harry felt his back burning. And by this time, Sini's room was already filled with smoke because the door had been open during that time. And it was very difficult to breathe. And Harry's mom and him tried breaking the glass on the window to get to the fire escape. So that's another, I'm like, why isn't the window openable? Seems a bit of a hazard as well to have an escape route, but not an opening window.
Could it
But this, yeah.
Could it be because of the, like, I've understood that sometimes the I don't know the word in English, but I think in Finnish is alipaine. So the pressure,
Yeah, the pressure
because of
difference.
fire takes the oxygen, the pressure gets causes that you can't kind of open things
That could
easily.
be, yeah. Maybe my cousin could weigh in on this because he's been listening to episodes, and he also did some firefighter training, and his dad's a firefighter, so maybe they could in the States. So yeah. Anyway, shout out to you. Yeah. So that could definitely be the issue. So they were trying to break the window; it wouldn't break, and after trying for some time, the window did finally break. But there were wounds on, their hands or their arms. And even Harry, to this day, so a bit of a spoiler, but to this day, he still has scars on his arm near his elbow, I saw during one of the interviews on the news. So, yeah. So they're bloody, they're wounded, him and his mother. And so Harry's mom decides to call emergency services again on a different phone. And by this time, it was already 2 minutes past 1 o'clock in the morning. So the initial call was at 12:56, and now it's basically 6 minutes later at 1:02. Sini was able to tell about the fire, but in the chaos of the situation, the emergency responder heard Sini saying the wrong address, and this was also a bit of a thing, like, was it the responder that heard wrong, or was it Sini once again misspeaking about the situation? Because I mean, if she's still hysterical and whatnot.
Isn't there a
So
recording of the call?
yeah, I'm sure there is. Yeah, but I didn't find anything.
Yeah. No,
It's
just like
yeah,
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
but yeah, I also thought the same thing. So yeah, or maybe I just read the Finnish wrong because like I said, all of this is in Finnish, not in English. So maybe I completely read the book wrong. But yeah, so help was basically sent to the wrong address, is what I understood, and the first on the fire escape was Harry with his little sister Yasmin. They made it to the ground and they waited, but Harry couldn't see his mother. Smoke was still billowing out of the house, and Harry was crying out for his mother again and again. And finally, after some time, the mother appeared at the window, but at the same time, she was hysterically calling for the younger brother Jukka, which is disconcerting, obviously. So Harri couldn't see his little brother anywhere, and Jukka was still in the house. So Harri tried to climb up the ladder to look in the bedroom window, but there was nothing to see with all of the black smoke billowing out. Harri went back down the ladder where Yasmin and Sini were standing in the yard. But at the same time, he remembered the cellar door. So the house's spare key was in the cellar, and he thought that with this spare key, he could go through the front door to look for Jukka and go, basically, since maybe a different route because he didn't know where the fire had started, etc. And yeah, so he tried, doing something, and he seemed like a man of action, which was also quite good and also apparent through this ordeal. It seemed like he wasn't necessarily freezing with terror or fear or anything. Like he seemed like he was legitimately concerned about the welfare of his mother and siblings. So
Can you tell one more time, how old was he again?
Harri was 13
Harri.
years old. Yeah.
13. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And his brother Jukka is 5 and his sister Yasmin is 2.
Yeah.
But then the attempt to get back into the house turned to be fruitless because the fire was raging in the downstairs room so much that one could not even closely approach the outside door because the heat was so intense. So, yeah. Sini was calling still out for Jukka, and she herself tried to climb the ladder again to get back into the house, but Harri stopped her because he was like, well, it's going to be certain death for you because, like, I think he already thought that, like, there's no way that his brother is still alive. I'm just hypothesizing here, of course, but I don't know how to explain, but, like, it would be kind of a bit shitty trying to choose between your mother, who is for sure alive in that moment, and then your brother, who might still be alive, but he's only 5 years old. So it's a bit of a catch-22 situation. Yeah, if she had basically gone inside the house, it would have been for sure death because the flames had engulfed the house at this point, and it was even that the wires were exploding in the walls and making popping noises, for instance, and the flames were actually catching like the roof structure on fire at this point, so it was pretty like all engulfed in flame. A couple arrived on the scene, and they had been at a mökki or a cottage, and they had already called the fire department at 1:05, and the fire department finally showed up at 1:16, so 16 past 1 o'clock in the morning. So the start of the fire to the arrival of the fire department was about 30 minutes. So from 12:46 in the morning is when they assumed that the fire started, and 1:16 when the fire department arrived. There are some quotes, for instance, from Helsingin Sanomat, where it was "Äiti pelasti 2 lasta yläkerran ikkunasta," which means like a mother saved 2 children from the upstairs window. And I just found this a bit fitting because this was right after the incident. And one of the difficult things about this case is that what happens afterwards kind of makes you look at what I just explained in a different light. So I'll go into the investigation of the fire department and the fire, I guess, what is like the, not Laitos, that would be a fire department, but what is the, like, chemical and whatever investigation. So I'm not saying that the mother necessarily started the fire right now, or did she? Let's see what the investigation had to tell us about things. And are there any questions at this point? Because maybe I need a break from talking for a little bit.
So, and the stepfather was mentioned in the beginning, but he had a fight with the mother, and then he had left to Helsinki
Yes.
to his parents.
Yes.
So
yes.
we assume that he was not in the house, but of course, yeah, the question here is that did he come back and start a fire, or Did the mother start it, or was it an accident?
Yeah, exactly. Those are pretty much the options. Of course, then you could always tie in a fourth option, like a random person set a random house on fire, but I don't think that's usually going to be the case. So
Yeah, we already talked about that in the first episode, right? That's almost never the case.
yeah, exactly. And I think I have a thing for, I don't know, as Victoria pointed out, I don't know if it was recorded or not, but thing for fire murders. I don't know. I don't mean to, but I just find them a bit fascinating. So
They find you.
pretty much, yeah. I mean, this was the first story in the book that I mentioned. Like that was, yeah, it was the first one I read and the first one in the book. And I was like, oh, damn. Okay, this is a fire murder. Got it. Right. Yeah. Cool. Not cool. So, the investigation. The next day, as the fire was out, they found Jukka's body, so the 5-year-old younger brother, sadly. And it seemed that he had tried to hide from the fire in the mother's room. He was found, I guess, maybe like curled up and whatever, and yeah. But the house was completely burnt and whatever. So hopefully, all you can hope in these cases is that he died quickly of smoke inhalation instead of actually like feeling any harm, basically. But so during the investigation, Sini regaled all that went on during the day. She stated that she went to sauna around 10 o'clock, like I had already said. She remembered that she turned off the electric kiosk. So, indeed, the house had an electric furnace for heating the sauna. I don't know what the actual translation for kiosk is. I never use any other term besides kiosk in English even. Like I never explain it in like, would it be furnace? Stove maybe? I don't know.
Sauna stove. I've seen that in some
Yeah.
explanation.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Google says sauna stove too.
Okay. Okay, cool. Now that I know what it is in English after all these years. But she did turn on an electric cabinet dryer, which had some sheets and other laundry in it. So this is kind of like a kuivausskaappi in Finnish. And that's a term that we'll put on the terminology list for sure. But yeah, so she had turned that on, and it's quite common because in Finland, it's not really super common to have an actual like tumble dryer in your house. It's more common to either hang your laundry or, of course, you can have a dryer, but it's either like a drying cabinet or hanging your laundry inside or outside, no matter what time of year.
And I think the drying cabinet is used a lot for like outside clothes, that you have a wet jacket or something and you put it there when you come inside.
Yeah, also that too. Yeah. But I think like in the States, it's not really a thing to have a drying cabinet at all. It's I've only seen this in Finland, or like the first time I saw it was in Finland. So
Yeah, I was gonna say the same. That is it a thing anywhere else other than the Nordic countries?
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we could do some research on drying cabinets, but yeah. So the cabinet was on a timer and would shut off automatically after 4 hours. So Sini also remembered that she smoked a cigarette, but she smoked a cigarette underneath the stove fan. So basically the fan that usually is above the stove to take out the ventilation or whatever when you're cooking, right? So she smoked into that, but she swore that she put the cigarette out in the sink with some water. She did not put the cigarette in the trash, and she left the butt, like, for sure, wet on the bottom of the sink. So, not a fire hazard at all. That's what she claims.
This sounds like a classical kind of educational story about how to prevent fires. Like you give all these risks like sauna, drying cabinet, smoking inside, and then you are of course sure that you did all the safe way. But I mean, we are human.
Yeah, I just like I'm actually like in my mind now I can picture this informational video like älä laita sauna, like blah 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 blah, and then like don't leave the sauna or like don't put on the sauna if it's past a certain time because then it'll be heated or whatever. Never leave your anything electrical unattended or leave your fire unattended or something. And I can just, it's rolling in my mind now. So thanks for that, Petra. Yeah. With like a bit of a sepia tone and 70s vibes for some reason. But anyway, there were 3 smoke alarms in the house, 1 in the downstairs entryway, 1 in the kitchen, and 1 in the upstairs landing. So the stairwell, basically, on top of the stairs. So most probably the fire alarm in the entryway was the one that woke Harry up around 1 o'clock. Also, during the investigation, the family's financial situation came under scrutiny. So this is where it kind of gets a bit... Yeah. So only 4 weeks prior, Nordea, which is the banking company, basically equivalent to like Chase or Bank of America or something like that, but a bank that's prevalent within the Nordic countries, as per its name, Nordea. This bank was the creditor of the house and had called to ask about the state and the value of the house 4 weeks prior to this incident. The survey had apparently worried Sini, the mother, because the family was already having financial stress due to her being injured at work previously, like not too long in the past at this point. And she had needed surgery for this injury. And so basically the family was mostly surviving off of governmental subsidies at this point. Could there be a motive here? I mean, what do you guys think? Like, at this point with this information, what do you think?
To collect insurance money or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's what kind of points at it, right? I
Mhm.
mean, that's like the go-to if you indeed think that this was purposeful and it wasn't an accident. I mean, we're still not saying it was either, like, either way, but
I think that if it would be only about the insurance, then whoever started the fire would make sure that the people in the house are safe, or
Yeah.
pretend that, we're going on a trip, we're not at home, and then start a fire somehow during that. So only that while people are in the house sounds a bit
Yeah, the insurance frauds are usually like that. You leave the house and it burns while you're out. Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, I think most people know of this type of scheme. So wouldn't it, just to play devil's advocate, wouldn't it be better to have a fire fraud? That kind of puts a little bit of danger. I mean, both of your young children are sleeping in the same room as you, for instance, next to the fire escape. Yeah, just speculating here. Mere speculation, of course. So, according to the article in Turun Sanomat, or the, newspaper of Turku, the damages of the house rose to about 100,000 euros. And of course, prices are in Finland are a bit less than in the States. And of course, this is like, 55 minutes away from Helsinki. So if people are thinking like, oh my God, that's really low for a house, it's not that low, I think. But luckily, the house insurance was up to date. So this kind of brings back, in the back of your mind, was this indeed insurance fraud? We'll see. So during the investigation, it came to light that the fireplace and the electric stove had not been declared or registered to the house before it was put into operation. So there was no official inspection when the fireplace was installed. Also, the nuohoja, or the chimney sweep, which is like a interesting word in Finnish, but the chimney sweep had no record of ever being at the house to clean the chimney. And this is something that usually needs to be done every year if you own a house, or every, I think, like second year or something if you have a cottage in the country. But I mean, this has only been like a law, I think, recently. So back in the early 2000s when this case took place, I don't think this was a thing. But I mean, for instance, the house that I own with my partner, we have to clean the chimney every single year. And the previous owners, I think in the 10 years they lived here, didn't clean it at all. So it was quite in bad shape, for instance. But yeah, so it's a bit disconcerting that both the fireplace, electric stove, etc., were kind of like illegal in a way. And then the chimney wasn't clean, it was dirty. Also seems like a fire hazard. So it's just kind of like this surmounting details that you're like, shit, there's more to this case than just, yeah. There's just like all these. I mean, of course it could be what's the word? Like not up to
An accident.
chance. And yeah, an accident or just like yeah. I don't
I mean, this sounds something like accident-prone house,
Yes.
like
Yes.
fire
Yeah.
hazardous house. It doesn't still imply. I mean, on the opposite, it doesn't sound like what's the word?
Purposeful.
Yes, purposeful,
Yes.
because it
Yeah.
sounds just like neglect of the house.
Yeah.
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 And I forgot like to write down the year that the house because I was like I mean, for me it's interesting, but I didn't know if it was an interesting fact to include within this. I can look up in the book, but
How
quickly.
old
But
the
I think
house was?
yeah, I think it was like
Yeah.
1945. I think it
hmm
was, and so they had obviously different renovations throughout all the years of different people owning the house. But this was like an old farmhouse
Okay.
that
Yeah, I
had been
was
added
wondering
onto.
if it's maybe a newer house, and that's why they didn't think that it's so important to clean the chimney. Yeah.
No, and I think like many people just don't really know that the chimney needs to be cleaned. Like the previous owners of our house just didn't know or care to do it. Like, yeah, whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah,
One of those reasons. Didn't know or care.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
And
Anyway.
like not registering your electric stove also sounds something that maybe you just don't think of it, or like
Yeah,
I
because you
don't
just kind of
know.
like add it in, add a
Yeah.
vent. Yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, I mean, how like the I'm sorry I'm going on about my house, but I mean, the upstairs bathroom was also illegal for a little bit until the anyway, so the previous owners also kind of illegally installed a whole bathroom upstairs, which we still have contentions about, but anyway.
And I think like when people have their like own detached house, you don't have such like in the city you are, you know, you have to register those because you have neighbors. But when you
Yes.
don't, then you're like, whatever, I do
Yeah.
how I like. People are
Yeah,
not
like
maybe
no
as
one will see
careful
it.
about those regulations.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't sound odd to me.
Yeah.
Just
This
having
case.
Hungary in mind, this does not seem weird at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in the States, like you can do the work yourself, but it's like you need to get someone to inspect it afterwards, at least. I mean, it depends on the case, but in putting in a stove, an electric stove, I don't think it's that major. Yeah, just buy an electric stove because you're most likely just replacing one, unless you really buy a
Mhm.
house that has no electricity, which is yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's a bit different per country. It was concluded that the fire had spread quite quickly, so maybe due to the reasons that I stated above, like faulty stuff and unmaintained chimney and whatnot. And I mean, the house is just old and whatnot, so. But supposedly, this fire had spread quickly without the aid of an accelerant, so there was no accelerants found during the investigation. And there was a dog used to try to sniff out the chemicals that were used to start the fire, but nothing was found. So that points to at least, no one tried to start a fire with, gasoline or something. So, but it was determined that the fire had most likely started in the kuivauskaappi, or the drying cabinet, possibly from some electrical short. So, Juha, the father, had installed some electrical outlets in the house, but these were determined not to be of any alarm for the investigation. So once again, being in your own house, you're like, oh, I'll just move the outlet or I'll just put in an outlet here or something that's quite common. And then unless you're literally selling the house, do you need to kind of, I don't know, prove that you did the work well or get an actual electrician to kind of okay your work? But good thing my partner is a live-in electrician, so I can get my outlets moved anytime I want. So
But even if you are selling the house, I think like no one even thinks about checking the paperwork for
no,
all the outlets in the house. I
no,
wouldn't think
no,
of that.
no, 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 no. And like even my partner was like, "Oh, wow!" Like, okay, so for instance, sorry, I'm like making all these asides about my personal like house because it was built in 1954, so it's also quite old, like less than 10 years, I think, from this house in this story. But like one day, because I work from home, and I had my Mac charger like plugged into the outlet, and suddenly like I plugged in one thing, then I plugged in another thing, and I guess it like kind of shorted things out, and then it like exploded. Literally, my Mac charger caught on fire, and I was like, oh shit. And then I immediately called like Auntie. I was like, "Hey, what the hell is this? Like, something happened. Something exploded in the outlet and like melted my charger." And so he like looked in the outlet, and yeah, like the previous owner had totally fucked the electrical wiring and like basically switched things around. And he was like, "This is the worst thing I've ever seen. Like, this guy should not have been doing electrical work." Surprised the house hasn't burned down yet with the shitty electrical work. So yeah,
But even, sorry, it's a side note, and I don't know if we need to keep all this, but
yeah.
also in our apartment, there are some electrical stuff that were done by electricians for sure and are not always done properly. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It can always be the case. Or things that are labeled in the electrical box, like which switch
yeah.
belongs to what place, are completely mixed up.
Yeah. Auntie's already told me some horror stories
Yeah.
about this at his work sites and stuff. So yeah, it's quite common.
So it seemed that it's the drying cabinet that just
Yeah.
accidentally caught up fire, and that's a sad
Yes.
story.
Yes. So basically, yeah, even though Juha, the stepfather, installed some outlets, that wasn't the case. They kind of did like a burn analysis, I'm sure. Like during the fire investigation, you can see like, the hottest point and what's the most burned and blah, 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 blah. And it pointed towards the drying cabinet, indeed. Of course, the house, so the conclusion of the investigation was that it was an accident and that there was no reason to suspect foul play. So, like I said, it's kind of, you might change your mind, you might stick with this theory. Yeah, I still have many pages to go, including, I don't know how many pages.
Yeah,
Let's
this
see.
sounds like already a concluded story. Like, okay, accident, very sad end, but
And this is only part 1.
yeah.
It doesn't sound very suspicious at this point.
Okay, interesting, yes. Yeah, I think I'm kind of leaving it like still like up in the air for this episode, but next episode we'll kind of get into it like after other things. So yeah. So of course, since the house was completely burned to the ground, the family had to live in temporary housing for the time being. But the insurance kicked in quite quickly, and the construction of a house on the same lot was underway. So basically they're just, using the same lot, using the same whatever, just building a new house on top of it, which I think would be like a bit sad. I don't know. I think I would also sell the property or something just because I wouldn't want to build a house on where my son had died, you know?
Maybe the opposite.
Yeah,
Like maybe
yeah.
you want to kind of stay with the soul of your child. I don't know. Too
Yeah,
sad.
yeah.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. It's yeah. What do you think, Victoria? Okay, Petra has a child. I don't have a child. Victoria doesn't have a child. We only have fur children. I know that's very cringy to say, but
For
anyway.
babies.
Yeah. The cringy fur babies.
For kiddos. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, fuck, even if
I don't know.
even
know
if
if I
my
would sell it or
dog
not.
died in a fire, my cats and dog died in a fire, I wouldn't want to build on the same. Like, it'd just be tragedy for me. But
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to think what I would do. I wouldn't necessarily sell it, I think.
Mm,
I don't have a strong opinion.
mm. Only a few months later, after the fire, Sini announced that she was pregnant, which must have been kind of odd timing. Like, once again, you're building a house on where your son had died, and then since the family was still kind of in the middle of the grief process, the grieving process from losing Jukka and their home, it's kind of a bit like, I mean, of course she was pregnant before the fire happened, but just keep this in mind, like also, pregnancy can mess with your mind as well. So just as a note to put in there. So only about a
Maybe,
year.
yeah.
Huh? Yeah.
No,
Sorry.
I just, yeah, maybe this comment needs more context afterwards we hear
Yes.
whatever this
Yeah.
story brings. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like this, like almost an epic story. Like in the book, it was done way better, obviously, because I was like, I don't know, I was reading it at work, which is also kind of bad because we deal, like me and Petra at work, deal with quite a lot of content that is can be also quite sad and fucked up. Basically, depends on the on the content, but I mean, there's been some child murders or child deaths that's been sad and whatnot, but yeah, so I decided to read this at work during my lunch break, and I was like just turning the pages because like what happens? Because like you know you read like okay, there's a murder in here somewhere, but when's it gonna happen? Is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Is it now? Like what is this story? You know? So I didn't do this justice, but the author of the book that I read definitely did. So if you either read Finnish, then do that, or if you want to learn Finnish and read it after a couple of years, then I suggest to do that. Only about a year later, as life began to return to normalcy, the family moved back into the house, and Harry's younger brother, Junno, was born. After all of this, Sini's condition, like, just, worsened because, of course, like I said, she had some disability leave from work because she got injured at work, and then she had surgery and whatnot. So just kind of think about all of this, which I'll bring up later too, but just put this in your mind. You're out of work. You're living off of government benefits at this point. You don't have much income. You've been fighting with your partner. You lost your son. You're moving into a new house. You just gave birth. You're like, all of these changes on like one person is like fucking soul crushing if you think about it. Like, it's no joke to have all of this happen to one person, and all the private life stuff and also the mental toll of all of this and stuff. So it's just kind of insane that all of this is happening and no one's noticing it. Or maybe people are noticing how Sini is being affected, but nothing's being done. As I said, Sini's condition worsened, and it's hard to say, like I said, if there's only one cause, and those causes that I listed are just maybe even some of the things that tied into her mental state or possibly worsened it. But of course, all of that stuff. And then the newborn that you just gave birth to has colics, so is up all night and crying and is, being fussy all the time, and just you can't soothe them, so you're not having sleep on top of that. So lack of sleep makes you do crazy things. In December of 2004, another event takes place where the stepfather is away, but Harry is home messing around on the computer, and Sini and Yasmin and Junno go to lay down for a nap, and all seemed well, and etc. But a couple of hours later, everything was not well. Harry went into his mother's room and tried to wake her, but she was strangely disoriented. Yasmin was still unable to be awakened, and she was about now like 3 years old at this time. And Junno seemed fine at this point. So Harry immediately called the ambulance because he thought his mom was having a seizure. Something was wrong. Like, both Sini and Yasmin were just acting weird, and like, yeah, Yasmin wasn't. She was still basically passed out and just not waking up. Both Sini and Yasmin were taken to the hospital after Harry had called the hätänumero,
Emergency
emergency services, yes. And under the investigation, it seemed that Yasmin and Sini had ingested poisoned juice. What do you guys think about this? Like, suddenly,
What kind of poison?
That wasn't said either. I was actually quite curious about this, because whether it was easily attainable, like, rat poison or something like that. But that was like kind of the only, like, I found on, I think it was the Iltalehti article, that it was like, he thought his mom was having a seizure. And so I'm just wondering if there were convulsions basically. And there was no vomiting, there was no like foaming at the mouth, there was no, I don't, or at least that wasn't mentioned. So I just wonder what type of, what type of poison this was.
Oh, was
Yeah, it
it
But
just
sounds
some sort
more
of a
like sleeping pills or
Mhm.
something in the
yeah, it could be
juice.
just overdose
Yeah.
of medications or
Mm.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
thought too.
yeah.
But if they say poisoned
But
specifically.
it's like in Finnish, it's kind of like you don't say like
Hmm.
well, you could say overdose, but I think in this it's like they thought it was poison juice, so whether it was
Hmm.
like tainted juice would maybe be a
Hmm.
better like translation for it. But Harry felt that this entire situation was kind of being downplayed, and nothing came of this, and no alarms were being sounded, nothing. Like the police didn't, do anything with this. It's like there was like maybe some investigation, like, oh, where did the poison juice come from? Blah 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 blah. Like kind of situation. Where did the beer, in the Don Juan of Kishu episode, for instance, like the Japanese, like opened up all those beers to check the poison. There was nothing there. Like at least do some more investigation with some juice that is possibly could have killed a 1 year or a 3-year-old at this point. So
I mean, I suppose like if they were at home, that it was pretty clear which was the juice. Like you would have the juice container somewhere in the kitchen, in the
yeah, or maybe it
refrigerator
was like
or
this
cabinet.
bilimehu or something like that. I don't know if it was like this juice box or something like that, or
But still, if they have
yeah,
just drank it, they probably haven't taken it out to the garbage
Hmm.
yet.
yeah,
So it should be inside the house. Would be
yeah.
pretty easy to check.
Yeah, exactly. So I think this just kind of flopped, like Harry had said. Like this is just, I don't know. Like I'll bring this point up later too, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to like make an interjection about this too. That you have this woman who literally lost her son. Like even any police who were child services would have been called at this point. I'm guessing, right? I mean, she is on disability services. She's like within the system, like kind of in a way, right? And nothing's been done. This is just a bit
Yeah,
weird in my
it
regard.
should have been suspected that she had something to do about it because there were not too many people,
No.
like adults in the home.
No, and I don't think even it wasn't mentioned about Yuha, the stepfather, but I don't think he was also in the home, and like he wasn't a suspect in any of this either. So it's just suspect all around, I would think. And I think in any poisoning case, there are some tainted cases of anything should be investigated thoroughly. But that's just me. Shortly after the poisoned juice incident, Sini and Yuha, the stepfather, ended things. So the child rearing and like the child care basically was left to Sini. But soon after this, she met another man named Kalle. And once again, I don't know if this is the person's name, and I also don't know if Juha is actually named Juha or if Sini is actually named Sini. So just using the names that I got from my sources. In general, Kalle had helped Sini with everyday tasks and with minding the younger children, but things became difficult once again when Yunu became sick and required more vigilant care from Sini. So I think maybe another colic upset, or it doesn't say what his case was, but I'm just assuming that there was probably lots of sleepless nights once again for Sini and breaking up with your partner, etc., and all the past incidences and stuff is kind of in October of 2005. Juha, the ex, filed for an application for joint custody because he felt like Sini wasn't freely giving him information about his kids, Yasmin and Junno. So Yasmin and Junno are and Jukka at that time were of Sini and Juha, and Harri is
Ah,
from a previous marriage, or relationship. But
y-
Sini contested this and only wanted sole custody and an increase in the child welfare payments from Juha. And at the time, the lawyer bills, the medical bills were mounting, and the pressure to vacate the premises was quite palpable. So, this is where I'm going to leave this particular episode, but you can kind of feel that things are a bit surmounting, and there's still no death of maybe more of the children at this point, but it's coming. And you just have to kind of, I don't know, ponder on all these things, all these telltale signs that are adding up. It's almost like I even said in my notes that like this case, like so many other familicide stories, seem to have some buildup of events where it almost seems like a tragic movie unfolding before your eyes. And it seems like that. Like, I mean, you, Petra, even made the comment earlier that the house situation when she, did the sauna, did the kuivauskaappi, did the smoking the cigarette, like the things you shouldn't do in an instance to mitigate, fire in your home, right?
Mm.
And then all these other events, like it's like she seemed like she was calling out for help in all these regards, but then yet she didn't want to get the help, like for, you how to take the kids or whatever, because, well, there could be many reasons for that. But there was a statistic that said that on average, 3 to 10 children die from their parents being the cause of their death in Finland. And according to the
Sorry,
book, huh?
3 to 10
Yes,
children
yes,
Per year.
per year.
yes.
Oh, okay.
And according to the book I was reading, Kun kukaan ei kuule by Linda Rantanen, there were apparently terribly, like 2 really, really bad years, 2012 and 2014, where there were remarkably more familicide cases. And I wasn't sure whether, like, in the years 2012 and 2014 or just generally, but the research shows that about 55% of familicide cases, the mother is the perpetrator, and in 39% of the cases for the father. So I don't know if that
Really?
statistic, yeah. So I don't know if the statistic is for those years, particularly in 2012 and 2014, or just generally over Finland. So,
I think it's generally.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
more sense.
Because what I found is that there are more men who commit these kind of
Oh, which
crimes.
country?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was just. Yeah.
'Cause
Okay.
this
So
is
this is
This
specifically
is
about
specifically
Finland.
for Finnish.
Okay.
Yeah, for Finland.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
So basically, and I'll ask you guys about, because I asked you to do some research about cases in different countries, but basically the worst part is that in most of these cases, and that's kind of one of the main points of the book that I already pointed out by Linda Rantanen, is that there's definitely warning signs that weren't taken seriously. Like the intervention measures fell short. I mean, hell, you have a fire which would already put someone in a very vulnerable mental state. And then afterwards, you have a questionable poisoning of some juice. Probably, like Victoria and Petra pointed out, of some maybe sleeping medicine or something. Not actual poison, but, And I just kind of wanted to shed some light on these cases because they are preventable. And in the book that I read also is like, yeah, this shit is kind of bullshit that it still happens this prevalently, especially in Finland, because there's just lack of communication between different services like the child services, police, etc., like sharing records and kind of like keeping track on these people, for instance. And once again, there needs to be less stigmatization of, I'm just also assuming here, like postpartum depression and in extreme cases, postpartum psychosis. And it just isn't like, quote unquote, the baby blues if there's someone who has just had a child with very stressful period of their time. Like chances are depression, is going to be a major factor. So it's kind of that this wasn't taken seriously is really sad. So, on the next episode, we'll go into more of the downward spiral and the final act done by Sini, which you guys don't know about yet. But this preamble definitely has a lot of information to digest before we conclude this in part 2 of the episode. So, kind of left you on a cliffhanger. I probably could have made a better cliffhanger, but it just seemed like a good place to end because it was before the second act and the second and final act of Sini. And yeah, so now I will basically ask you guys. So, what is the prevalence and what statistics and what information did you find on countries and I don't know, like familicide in general? Like, did you find anything interesting? And
I found that this statistic that I mentioned that now I can't remember and I couldn't find the percentage exactly, but the vast majority of perpetrators of these kind of cases in the UK, at least, were male. So I was really surprised that it's kind of the opposite in Finland, where it's more close to 50-50, but still.
I'm kind of thinking maybe because it's like in Finland and the Nordic countries in general. I would be curious because I'm sure Petra had maybe some other Nordic countries. I'm assuming, but maybe that the parental leave in the Nordic countries is quite, yes, male and females can, or the mother and father of the baby can take equal time leave, but it's usually more seen as kind of like a regular societal thing for the mother to take more of the leave for the year that the child is born. So maybe there's just like more time with the child. That's just like
Mm.
an inkling that I have. But how do you feel, Petra?
The parental leave is not equal in Finland at all.
It's not? I thought it
less
could
than
be.
It's like less than 5% of the dads take the parental leave.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, but they could
Yeah.
take equal amounts of time, is what I mean. Like 6 months and 6
I
months.
mean,
Yeah,
they
that's what I
could,
meant as
but
equal.
that doesn't
Yeah.
really help the fact that they don't. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
they
Yeah.
are
So I
not
meant
the
by like
the
equal
ones, yeah.
time in Finland, I mean that each parent could take 6 months, and then
Yeah,
but
yeah.
more likely the mom takes the full amount of time, or like the dad takes
Yes.
like a couple weeks or a month or something like that. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did change the law recently to kind of encourage the dad to take more. So let's see how it changes. But yeah, I think what I've read about Finland is that when fathers commit it, it's more of a revenge to the partner. So they're like,
Yes.
I hate you, bitch, I'm going to kill your kids
Yes.
type of
That's
murder.
yes.
Whereas
exactly.
when the mother does it, it's more like this, like,
Mercy
what have
killing,
I,
almost
like,
like
yeah, kind
can't
of
survive
like,
without me kind of thing. Yes.
yeah, like this is all horrible. My children will only suffer, so I will
Yeah.
just kill everybody type of.
Yeah.
So the motive behind it is different.
Yeah. Which I think is also kind of similar in the States, like at least even though it's been a father annihilation, to his family, I think the father, since they're most likely the breadwinners back in the day, like, in the
Yeah.
50s, 60s, and 70s and stuff, that if there was some financial issue, they would most likely kill the family because, oh, they can't survive without me or whatever, or just to like, save them the shame of living in squalor or something, or like a little bit less social or economical level or something like that. So it's kind of like the fathers in Finland have the mother's mentality or something. Wait, did I say that right? The fathers in the States have the Finnish mother's mentality, is what I meant, yeah.
I found a study also that identified four types of family annihilators,
Ooh.
and they're kind of categorizing the main reasons behind these cases. And one of them, like Petra said, is this self-righteous type. So when the father is blaming the mother for something, usually. Another type is disappointed but they refer to the father here because in this study they mostly identified male perpetrators. But the disappointed type is when the father is disappointed in the family for some reason, that they didn't obey his rules or something. Then there's this anomic type when the father identifies the family with his previous economic success, and when there's like some financial issues, they kind of want to erase them because they don't anymore represent his previous success or their success as a family financially or as a status.
But I feel
And
like
then,
all of these can tie in. Sorry. Okay, do the last one and then I'll make my point.
yeah,
But yeah. Yeah.
the last one is paranoid, when they're trying to quote unquote protect the family from some real or probably imagined threat.
Yeah. So I don't know, like, yes, I see the distinction between these things, but then there's quite a lot of overlap between
Sure.
like the father that's like, yeah, I'm going to stick it to this bitch or whatever, and then also being ashamed because of the economical status, because like, oh, blah blah blah. Like, I don't know. It's hard for me to piece apart. Like, I think more often than not, you're going to have overlap between them besides just a distinct category of family annihilator, like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and they do say that they can overlap, but they were just trying to identify these main like motivators.
Yeah.
Now I found the number I had, but also in Japan, it seems that 65% of child murders are done by the mother.
Really?
Yeah. So I found actually a very long study about it, but I didn't read it through yet.
Do you have any like points like from it? I mean, you don't have to like make a complete synopsis of it. But...
Well, I mean, it seems that main reasons is indeed the depression of the mother, kind of like losing hope, all this.
Yeah.
And that probably these cases could be prevented by intervention.
Yeah.
But in the Finland context, the whole, like the child care, child social welfare thing has been in a crisis for long, and it's every time these kind of things happen, it's in the media for some months and they discuss it a lot, and then they forget about it again and no one allocates more resources there, and then it's the same story again. Like I remember these cases when I was a kid, reading from the newspapers, and I'm still reading those cases. It's like nothing gets better.
No, it's just like my heart breaks for all these children that their lives have ended, and I'll get more into it in the second episode because, like, spoiler, Harry is the sole survivor of this family catastrophe, and I think he's like 30, like maybe around my age, 30 something, 35-ish nowadays. So yeah, he kind of also ruminates on what would have been, if this had never happened, and what type of life would have been like. Yay, depressing topics.
I was also gonna add that apart from, of course, the role of the authorities, still a lot of the times another issue is that people are not generally very well educated about noticing signs of mental illness in others or signs of depression, things like that. So that would also definitely help if like the bigger family or friends would be able to notice it better.
Yeah, and also in episode 2, we'll get into that too. There was also warning signs from the family, so from her parents to be specific. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like also we're kind of blessed and cursed within Finland that a lot of people, I don't know, are aware of depression because it's kind of like the running joke that most Finns are depressed, like just as like a very, very general thing. But I think that
in the happiest country.
Yeah, I mean, like there's a reason why we're so happy we're all on antidepressants. But all jokes aside, I think that like compared to living in the States, I think Finland has been more open about mental health issues and way more supportive of health issues and burnout, for instance, and just like if you need time to recover from some incident or something, that's totally okay. You take your time to do that and you still have your job when you come back. It's not like, your spouse of, 20 years just died. Okay, so you're going to come back to work on Monday, right? Like, it's not going to be like that here. You're going to get some bereavement if you're,
I would say most of Europe and
Yeah.
Japan.
Yeah.
I would say USA is the
And maybe
special kid
UK.
here.
And maybe UK. I just as an assumption also with UK, but yeah. So I think we're kind of, I'm not going to say #blessed, but we're kind of lucky in that regard. So it also was a bit of a smack in the face when, this case, you just see like there's all the warning signs and just no one like kind of made it the point to actually hey, I'm gonna get some help for this person, you know, it just needs like one person just speak up and
I think one factor is the uh, not embarrassment, but what do you feel? Shame.
Shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The shame is very deeply coded into the Finnish mentality. So people are ashamed of admitting that they have mental health issues. Okay, maybe not the young people anymore nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah.
But still, this was in the beginning of 2000s. It's 20 years ago. And also when it comes to the child welfare things, like admitting that you're not succeeding as a parent, that you need help as a parent, it's also very high hurdle that you have to, like the threshold of admitting that is high. So I think shame and kind of like keeping your face, those are cultural things that might affect here.
Yeah, I also agree with that. Like, I mean, I just said it in the terms of like postpartum or something, but like just in general, stigmatization of motherhood needs to be like stopped, you know, like you're weak or you're less worthy or something because you gave birth and you have, I think most of this stuff is probably thought of by men who have never had a bunch of hormones like in their body and like given birth and like have all this extra stress and, you know, the mental workload of job, kids, everything. Like just, I don't know, like they don't know how to maybe I'm just anyway rambling right now, but
I would even express it as the opposite. Like it's expected from mothers. There's so much
that's
expected.
What I mean.
Like
yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, like it's all of this stuff is like put upon us and no one really understands it unless you're a woman yourself or unless you're like a female presenting person is maybe what I should say, and you've been in this sphere of having all these hormones, having all of this extra mental labor of taking care of a child and housework and work on top of it if you're working full time or whatever. And then I just, so I think that also plays a part into this too, because, you know, Juha wanted to have custody of the children, but of course she's like, no, I've got it. You know, that also speaks for the shame aspect possibly that you had brought up, because it's kind of the mother's or the woman's, you know, role to take care of the children. If you can't do that, then what type of woman are you, is what I kind of gathered from that, or like that's how I interpreted it, like in the articles and stuff. That we can keep rambling on about this, or we can call it an episode.
Continue rambling about it next week.
I think there will be more to a ramble when we hear the details.
Yes. So this was just the background information. So thanks for listening to this episode. Let us know what you think about this topic, or I don't know, hell, if you're a social worker in any country and you deal with children and social welfare, go ahead and send us an email and tell us what you think and tell us what you do in your country. And I'll just continue doing the exit if you guys don't mind, since I'm on a roll. And you can send us that email at translationmurderpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at translationmurderpodcast. And please follow, subscribe, and rate our podcast on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And thanks for listening for this week. And see you next week.
But please don't send dick pics.
Yeah, never. Yeah, that's kind of Petra's default. Never send dick pics. We still haven't got a dick pic, which I'm very happy about. It's been working.
Yes, thank you.
Maybe it's in the spam folder.
Oh, I haven't checked the spam folder. That's true. Okay. Heippa ralla.
Bye.
Moro.